And spinning. There we go.
But are
Now it
you
says we're live.
really, though? That's the real question.
Don't know.
See.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Dr. Stewart.
Ha, ha, ha,
That's
ha.
clearly what you were going for.
Yes. You
Hi,
can tell by my
everybody.
enthusiasm that I have no enthusiasm
It's been a long day,
to
Stewart.
be here.
For us both.
Yep. So I'm not. Yeah. Yay. We're going to talk about politics.
I was about to say that the thing to really get us in the mood is an armistice treaty. I mean, talk of oof. You know, some people look at sports car magazines, some people look at porn, some people look at armistice treaties, and they just love life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We are none of those
I was,
things in this context.
yeah, I mean, I was looking at porn right before we started here, and it didn't really
Shit.
cheer me up.
Porn.
If you say so.
Also, you're slightly out of focus.
That's
That's a good time to cut.
Mrs. Vance throws in $1 with a yay, excited, hearty face. So thank you very much, Jill. Good to see you.
Wow, so she's promoted
Love
herself
love the
to
name,
Miss
Miss Admiral.
Wife of the Admiral. Do you think that's like First Lady? Like you get privileges? Because that's the highest position of military.
You'd think. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Jill can tell us though. Let us know, Jill.
Yes.
Jeff says he still doesn't trust Vance. Well,
Oh.
I don't want him to be a badmiral.
Huh.
A badmiral. I don't want that. I've really enjoyed him so far, and yeah, I want him to be straight, yeah, and level. You know.
I can imagine in season 4 there may be a situation where there's like a mission from his past, which is like Pegasus, which is revealed, and he had to do something more shady in his 50s. And
Yeah.
it's not like it didn't ruin Riker,
Well,
but there's still
yeah,
things that make him look less good.
yeah, and he did give Saru the advice of trust some advice from an old salt who's made a lot of mistakes in his life.
Yeah.
So it's probably seen some shit.
Yeah.
Get where he's at.
Well,
So
I mean, as weird as it sounds, I would really be interested in seeing like a Captain Vance, Star Trek Captain Vance. Before he was an admiral, dye the hair back
yeah.
to full black, make it maybe like just a goatee or something slightly different, or at least do some flashbacks to him as a captain, because that'd be so interesting. I think to see how he were evolved. Because I'm sure when you become an admiral and then head of Starfleet, you
Oh,
have to become so much more negotiating and balanced. Captain, you could have a bit more fun with it.
when I saw him as a captain, he was captaining the USS Camel.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. With a few more tattoos, which he got, I guess, surgically removed by the dots.
Well, yeah, those can be removed easily
Space
in the future.
removed. So it's future. Yeah. Straight into a whole interesting conversation. I'll start sharing and see how many people join us.
Yes, please
by
do.
that point. So I'll see you in a minute.
108 people here, 57 likes, guys. We can easily hit 75 likes. We can hit 100 likes, but we're going to go for 75 likes. If you haven't hit that like button, please hit it. It's one of the best ways to help us. It's easy, it's free. Everyone can do it, and it's amazing. If you do want to support us financially, just to help keep making the free content that we make all the time, there's lots more of Discovery to talk about, as well as other Treks and other Trek reviews and a whole bunch of great stuff that we like to do here, plus ships. I'm sure we'll be talking about some new ship stuff in the new year here. So by all means, if you want to have your comment read on these lives, one of the best ways to ensure that is to super chat it. We do read them all, and we like to include your thoughts into the conversation as well. So if you want to have your thoughts out there, or your theories, or just a question you have for us, let us know via super chat. It's a great way to do it, and you're supporting the channel at the same time. Or you can put it in the regular chat as well. We will try to read that there. So just sometimes we miss a few things in the regular chat, so we don't want to miss it if it's important. So if you can, please do. Another way to support us, of course, is to join the channel. There's a little join button down there by the subscribe button, and we're probably one of the probably the prettiest too, the hardest working pretty hardworking Star Trek YouTube channels out there. So if you can help us on a monthly basis by joining the channel, those are really helpful, very much so. And as well as Patreon/Trekyards. It's another monthly service as well if you want to do it that way. You can also send a PayPal at any time. If you send a PayPal during the live, though, make sure you let us know, or one of the moderators know in the chat that you sent it, and then we will read your comment or question via the email from PayPal. So, yeah. And just for the record, guys, I don't feel like being here today for this. I was pretty energetic earlier today, but not so much now. So hopefully this will cheer me up. And yeah, thank you guys for joining. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate all you guys do. And, you know, if it wasn't for you guys, there would be no us. So thank you very much for watching. And yeah, continue to do so. We will have another review for the last episode on Friday this week. So you get 2 full reviews from us this week. And that'll wrap up the Discovery, at least live review content, and then it'll have a week of spillover probably, so stuff to talk about from the final episodes. And yeah, lots of great stuff coming your way.
So I'm gonna bet there's gonna be a couple of things to talk about in that episode. I mean, I think that's a fair comment.
I think so, absolutely. Chris Gwillem, though, £5. Money. Can't thank you enough for regular content. Well, thank you, Chris. We try. We do enjoy doing this as much as sometimes it's like
Well, it's a pleasant job, but still a job as well, you know.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that we're one of the hardest working Star Trek YouTube creators out there.
Yeah.
Just for our regular content, our lives, our discussions, our community, Facebook. You know, most of the ones that have a YouTube channel don't have the Facebook to back it up. We've got a great team behind us as far as moderators and admins go. So I think we do a lot for the Trek community. So really appreciate you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's fun to go back and watch older content, see how far we've grown and improved. And I'll tease, but we're working on, you know, it is now 2021, but obviously we're still in our discovery phase. But in 2021, we've got some plans. One of those are some new graphics, and I've sort of teased those today, and, you know, ever improving. I'm pretty excited to see those come to fruition, because it's just like, because I went high with the ambition there, and it takes a little bit of time, but when you have talent and crazy, put them together. I'm excited.
Crazy talent.
You got crazy. Didn't even think that was good. Yeah, perfect.
I know. That's why I'm here to pick up whatever you drop.
That's
whatever you drop.
He's the captain.
That's right. And whatever I drop, you pick up, because that's why you're the first officer.
Yes,
right.
Like the talent. You drop it year on year, and I pick it up.
We complement each other, yes. If it wasn't for the talent that I dropped, you would have none. That's exactly right. It's totally true.
Same with handsomeness. But I think it might be the other way around. I think mine has just helped you.
Yes.
I'm like the Doctor.
All those things.
Regeneration energy, so I'm able to give you a bit of the handsome energy. Wow, this is...
Yeah. David L. throws in €5. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Keep the chins up, Captain and Commander. You're doing a great job. Well, thank you. We appreciate that. You guys are doing a great job, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We've been really pleasantly surprised with this year. And we think we've done you guys justice. And it's funny, I've been doing some Eagle Moss tidying up. And there's so many ships in there that, you know, I want to recover with you, Stuart, because we've now got physical miniature. And you've obviously got a lot of them as well now. And it'll be a whole different thing in the magazines, etc. The Discovery ships, especially. You know, it's different to how you first looked at them. So I'm excited. A lot of stuff that's coming in. And I mean, how many fan film ships have I even designed this last year? And worked with. I mean, Eric Henry, Pacific 201, now fully released, guys. Do go search Pacific 201 on YouTube, and I know we're going to cover the ships at some point. You know, and Eric was tweaking them up until the last bit of time, so I'm excited to recover that in Trekyards Glory, etc.
In the meantime, we do have some with Eric joining us for the Pacific 201 ships. Type in Trekyards, Pacific 201. You'll find some interviews and talks, discussions about his ships and things. So check those out.
I mean, we were there to promote
if you haven't already.
We were there to talk to him during his journey. So even though his ships may have changed, model may have changed, we're part of that journey, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. John Chanel, $20. So thank you so much.
Incredible.
Thanks, guys, for everything you do. You guys have created a great environment for geeky trekkers like myself. Well, you're welcome.
We
appreciate it.
Try, and yeah, and especially if you guys like the episode reviews, we're going to do more TNG and others this year. And as we always do, quite the good and the bad. And we're not going to hold our punches when TNG don't do so good. But Stuart, though, give us the basic briefing as to the baseline of this episode. Exactly with that face. Keep that sexiness. But give us the baseline of what, why, and how we're here.
Yeah. We're here to talk about whether there should be a Emerald Federation chain. Federation Phase 2. Federation 2.0. A new Federation where the Federation, that fragmented as it is, teams up with the Emerald chain, which seems to have more territory or more access, I guess, to dilithium. It seems like they have more of a system set up than the Federation ever did. But the Federation has the good name, and the Emerald Chain wants to use that. And should there be some kind of teaming up here? And I know it was Vance and Osyraa kind of head to head, and he kind of waylaid it a little bit and said, you have to stand trial for your crimes as a show of good faith. And that really just kind of did not sit well with her, and I don't think she expected that at all.
That was one politics too far.
Yeah. So the conversation today here is just, should that be a thing? Is that what the Federation should do? Is that the next logical step? Yeah. So that's what we're here to talk about. Politics and armistice.
Well, and I think we also wanted to go into a little bit of the discussion of obviously we're not quite at the end yet, but how's the Federation really been presented? Is the Discovery crew looking at them through rose-tinted glasses? Because obviously everyone here is biased. Fair. But Osyraa is saying, they're not perfect, they've got problems, she's seeing other things. So what if we look back now with that bit of extra context, what may have they been doing that isn't quite right, that isn't quite justifiable? Is it as black and white as Emerald Chain are bad guys, Federation are good guys, or not? And I'm assuming there's going to be something like that in season 4. This is all the setup season, but that's another part of the conversation today. Because if why ruin something that's good unless there's something wrong with it? Yeah,
because we knew the Nefarian president had said that the Federation kind of went sideways a little bit beforehand.
Yes, I forgot that.
Did a few things that were kind of off the rails as far as, well, we don't know exactly what, but we assume it had to do with, they got to 330 world, 330, something like that. At their peak.
Yeah.
And they're stretched a little thin. The dilithium started running out. So, when people get desperate, they kind of cut corners or do things they probably shouldn't. And I don't know if that's what you're referring to specifically. But yeah, there seems to be some stuff going on. And now that it's fragmented, there's different pockets of Federation that aren't in contact with each other. So it'll be interesting to see how those all are doing their thing as well.
Yeah, there's going to be a wonderful big picture once we have the dilithium to start traveling to places. And I can see that. Yeah. I can see that all just being season 4. Just they suddenly say, right, all of our ships now operational. We're going to go out and see what's going on. They're like, oh hell, shit. There's a lot of shit happening in the outer rim that we did not know about, and here we are in our ivory tower. But in context, there's nothing menacing there. Just like, well, we couldn't go out. We did all we can. We're being pushed to the brink every week. There is literally no more we can do. So it's not.
Yeah.
Even though it literally is an ivory tower, it's a nice cream. And it's a tower.
And Vance even said not by choice, because when they talked about has anybody contacted Deep Space, Station 235 or whatever.
Yeah.
It's 80, it's not for 87 years, and it's not by choice.
Yeah.
So it's not like they don't want to do the thing, they just can't. So.
But how can you prioritize on things that are too far away? It's like, by sending a ship out 6 weeks to one planet, you could have made 3 trips to a planet 1 week away and helped them way more, etc., etc. It's hard to. As he says, he's putting out fires, so I doubt there's many ships just on casual duty. They might pretty much all ships are doing, not necessarily emergency, but immediate need.
He's probably putting out fires literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
After the burn.
Oh. Yes.
Kyle Wong,
Hey,
5
good to see you.
pounds. Greetings, guys. Love your content, so keep it up. And 2021 won't feel so bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
We want to go quick
yeah.
and go well.
Yeah. Well, I would like to see, the Federation at the time of the burn. So 125 years ago,
Yep.
everything's ticking along fine. Sure, there's a lithium shortage. They got scientists, different areas trying different things, which we see in TNG all the time. There's always scientists coming aboard testing a soliton wave or some other shit. Like they're always doing something, and this would definitely be ramped up because they have more member planets of the Federation, and one day it's just all of a sudden. The Federation president's in his office, and sir, we just got word. Almost every ship has blown up or been incapacitated. Like, could you imagine? Like, that is a story to be told. The burn and how that was, relayed and found out about, and then just some of the ships. Like, what was the Enterprise at the time doing? The best crew, were they at warp? Did they just gone? Who knows? So, yeah, that's the story I want to hear. To be fair, but
Well, I mean, there's definitely. I would love to see flashbacks to all this stuff. There's so many potentials. I mean, they haven't been shy of showing us other uniforms, other things and bobs. So, we've talked about, and I'll remind again, the idea of falling upon this fleet of ships that formed a convoy, 80 years away at warp, and they decided, yeah, we're just going to stay out here and make our own thing. And so you then, you find them in real time in the present, and then you can then cut back to them in the past. And now you get to have this really interesting story following a captain, the first captain of this ship, who's now maybe because of, maybe he was the son of the captain, he was an ensign, and you cut back to him being an ensign on board the ship, and then you see the academy of that era, and then he gets, sent on board this Federation starship, he's really excited, and he goes out, and then the burn happens, and then he's now stuck on the ship, and then his dad dies, and he gets captain after, that could be a really intense story, involving flashback, and, there's so many story potentials,
Yeah. But we are in the present, and we have this armistice proposed to us. Now, I don't know if anything's going to be mentioned about it the next episode, because it seems like once Vance said what he said, that was kind of off the table. Osyraa just left, and she went back and killed some people. You know how it is, when you're having a bad day. I wish I could go do that sometimes, but, Anywho, so I don't think much more is going to be said about it in this season. I think that'll be next season. The groundwork for recovering, like making the Federation whole again, and I think that'll be an interesting premise for season 4, because this was all about the burn. We're getting that, wrapped up pretty well, but they're moving on to that next step where there's going to be a cliffhanger of, will the Emerald Chain and the Federation create a new Federation? And I think there's a lot of really fun stuff that can be done with that. And like we said, those different pockets of Federation on the outliers, I'm sure some of them are doing what they think is right, and not necessarily the case. Perfect example is, Ransom and his crew on the Equinox, doing what it takes to survive and to get to what they need to do,
Well, arguably, he did save the crew's life. They'd have been dead long ago.
Yes.
Yes. And, how many animals do we kill for food, etc.? So, who's to say they may not have thought they were sentient, etc., etc.?
Yeah.
Not say right or wrong, just,
there's
layers to that.
Yeah, we got the references to the Verdrash, which is a bastardized way to say Federation, I guess. And Calypso, they were attacking Craft's colony. And then we also got the reference at the beginning of this season with them as well. So,
although to be fair, that there was no information with them in the short, only because the audience has said, "Hey, that's this reversed." They've never come out and said that, so that could just be a double Easter egg with an Easter egg,
Could be.
That is still an assumption, even though it's founded. It's still an assumption,
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. Anyway, so yeah, what do you guys think? Do you think that they should team up together, the Emerald Federation or the Federation Chain, as Dave L said, and create something new. I mean, was Vance, was he a little bit too hard nosed? I didn't think so. Sure, we don't know what's in the armistice. We don't know who's giving up what concessions are made, but I think the fact that Osyraa can't represent the chain is a good point. And he turned that from, you not only can you not represent them, but you need to be tried for your crimes. I mean, a lot of people said that wasn't a good move on his part. I disagree. It's a talk. They're in talks right now. It's not like, you got to throw things out there and see what sticks. So that's one of the things he just mentioned as a concession, and it wasn't, it was just him. He hasn't talked to the Federation president, the council. I don't know if there is a council, what the situation is politically, but it was just him making suggestions. So,
I mean, certainly everything takes place in a couple of hours. They didn't have much time to think, let alone. And ironically, if the Discovery crew weren't fighting back and gave the villains more time to negotiate without the stress of, they may have actually come out with the deal quicker. As weird as that sounds, it's because things were escalating because they were trying to free themselves. Not to say they shouldn't be trying to free themselves, but if there was no stress, maybe they could have had more time and then more,
Well, yeah, I mean, one of the first things I would have said to Osyraa personally is there's going to be absolutely no deal until we get our entire crew back and our ship. So right there, we need that back. That's one of the concessions. It's going to be right off the hop. I know when she first contacted him, she said, I'm not going to do that because I need leverage. But once you're in the meeting, that's something that I'm not going to sign. I'm not going to agree to anything. I'm not going to take this to the president unless we get our ship and our crew back.
I guess what I would then say is an in writing document that says, I will not seize you and your people. Because, I mean, that's a stupid maneuver for her. There's no reason for her to do that. I mean, the fact that she let everyone else go is really impressive. But then again, one hostage is theoretically enough. What I found most odd about the episode is the tone of, we will join together. Well, that's not... I've never thought of the Federation as that sort of entity. It's always been a case of, we started this as these 6 planets, or 4 planets, whatever. And then it evolved, but always stayed true to what originally was ideal-wise and constitutional-wise and whatever. And so I would feel uncomfortable to say, 900 years later, that just because of a very, very bad event, we had to undo the Federation as a concept and meld it with a semi-criminal organization and call us now, the new Federation of Chain. I don't know what it would be. Like, that seems too odd to me, because they explicitly say let's join for, like, it's very, like, let's join rather than let's make a peace treaty. It felt too, like, we'll make a new thing. But for me, I would not want that personally. It should be, we are Federation, you are them, but we're legitimizing you as another intergalactic power. But that's not how they implied it in the episode.
No, she was suggesting a coalition. So 2 strong forces coming together to create something new, as opposed to them joining the Federation.
But I mean, I like how it was with a new name potentially. Like, they're now a new entity, which is weird.
But I don't think they would necessarily do that. Even she said, the Federation has, enjoyed this reputation, which we've tried in the last 100 years to attain, and we just can't. We've tried that hard by the sounds of it, but so she wants to take advantage of the name Federation. Mm-hmm. But would it be a new Federation, the new Federation, the whatever, like?
And that's what bugs me. I just want them to be like, like the Klingons are another sovereign power, and you bring them to the table, and that's all good. You don't need them to be, close out the Federation, make a new Federation. That feels...
The UCP, United Chain of Planets.
See, there you go. It'd just be weird, because then the show Discovery, which has already done so much damage to the Trek lore over the 3 seasons, will then also have destroyed the Federation. Like, how many more things can they do, Like, I don't want that. Whereas,
don't ask that question, because they'll want to say, hey, we'll show you what we can do.
Whereas I'd be quite interested if they rather said, we want to become the official, like, Federation market. The Emerald Chain is now the official trading arm of the Federation. You know, like that is
Hmm.
that I could see. So they're, or you know,
The problem is though that the Federation, if they do that, a lot of people don't look kindly on the Emerald Chain
oh
because
no,
they're
no, no.
like in control of their planet or whatever.
Hmm.
So now you're working with these people, and it would give the Federation a bad name. Like it's a very fine line, and that's why I think Vance was. You need to stand. We need to make a point that we're not entering this entering into this with a bunch of criminals. We're entering into this to legitimize you,
Hmm.
and in order for that to really hit home, you need to stand trial for all the crimes, atrocities you committed on all these planets. Um, so I can totally see his point of view on that, and I think that's because if they all of a sudden just start working together, and it's all the Federation, who's had this good reputation, and the Federation might come back, they might come save us. Now all of a sudden they're working with the Emerald Chain. It would send out the wrong message to a lot of people.
Although
Um,
it's fair to say the reputation of the Federation is somewhat scarred, not so much for
on by some
negativity.
yeah, for some people probably.
Yeah, well, just as you said, some people don't like the chain. It's kind of well, I'm sure some
Yeah.
people just deal with them purely as traders and never see the Orion, gun people, because for the most part they're just trading people, and they have dilithium, so they're a really useful source. The Federation isn't a negative
Well,
entity, but if you've been abandoned by them, and there are literally hundreds of planets, we know that hundreds of planets that have not been Federation dealt with in a long time, and they're also lost interstellar travel. I can imagine there's so much turmoil out there, and if you're asking where is the Federation, where have they been, and
yeah.
obviously you can't
Well,
scan on the planet, so you might think 200 of them might think we're being singled out because they don't like us anymore. Like that reputation of being
yeah, but
abandoned is
like
going
I
to
mean,
hurt them so much.
well, you can even turn it around though. The people deal with the Emerald Chain, and who the Emerald Chain have been a godsend for because they're
Hmm.
supplying them with whatever they need. All of a sudden, now the Federation is part of Emerald Chain. It's going to be, now we're going to get the politics of the Federation involved, and everything's going to take
Yeah, that's
5 times
interesting.
longer, and
Yeah.
we're going to be left in the wind because they can't even take care of their own planets after the burn. Like,
Mm.
there's two sides to this argument. As some people think the Federation is a savior, some people think the Federation is just political bullshit, and vice versa,
Mm.
right? So
Although
it's one of those situations
mm.
you're not going to make everybody happy,
Oh,
no matter what decision you
which
make.
is what negotiation is.
Yeah,
If it was, then you'd
what's a
be
compromise?
exactly, and no
Yeah.
one's happy with the compromise. People accept them. Although just the fact there's 125 years, although the 85 years to the star base was quite an interesting number, but let's round out to a middle 100 years for most of these planets, no contact. That is people's lifetimes, their parents' lifetimes. There is a generation, 2 generations of children that have lived in a world with no federation where them coming back in is going to be confusing. The resentment is more going to be they abandoned us years ago. You're not even really thinking about it. If they haven't come and saved us in the 55th year, at some point you give up. So I can see honestly season. I mean, it's different for Trill, Earth. The planets
Mm.
that either have more technology, more people, and I'm sure like the Admiral was on Earth until recently. So yeah, I'm sure there's still Federation people stuck on planets, and that would be a little bit different. But I'm saying random, like more let's call them third world planets. Planets that are not as advanced, developed, whatever. Um,
Mhm.
it would be really interesting then to have those stories of now we've got dilithium, now we can travel again. Let's go back to the planets that were less well developed. It's like, hey, we're back, guys, and they're like, oh shit, wow, hi. I mean, my granddad was in the Federation. Is this good? Like that's so interesting in terms of storytelling. But as long as you have that
Yeah.
positive start, you need that with Star Trek. But they've done a
Yeah.
reasonably good job so far, so I'm not overly worried until, as they say, they swap their rights. Like, oh no,
Yeah.
oh no.
Well, Jonathan Davies puts in £5. Season 4 sounds a bit like Andromeda to me. All aboard the Discovery Ascendant. Yes. So those parallels have been drawn before. So George Mangrum, $5. No merger. The Emerald Chain still has slavery, although they said they would give it up. They are nothing like the Federation. Crazy as the Federation and Borg merging. Well, the Federation be assimilated into the Borg. Um, so But I think I see your point. And James McGill, $2, would rate this admiral among the top 5 of all Star Trek shows. Absolutely, yes. Um, I just want to. Somebody mentioned earlier in the chat, like where are the other admirals? There should be like a few admirals. We've only seen Vance, and I know this is just a small little starbase thing, but and now we've heard of the president. Again, that raises the question: what's the political structure? President, council, admirals. Vance is the CNC, so he's the head admiral of Starfleet, commander in chief. So we still need to find out that political structure and if it's maintained. You know,
when you've got to also ask, what is the purpose of admirals? Is there even a Starfleet Academy, like, you know, getting people out there? Is there really this turnover? And if there aren't enough ships, people can't get to captain, people can't get their own ship, people can't get the experience, people can't get to admiral, which means most admirals are based on pencil pushers, etc. So what are they good for? Only specific jobs. How many admirals do you need when you haven't got a multi-planetary alliance? I think it's like 30 planets. Are most planets just on? Are most of the admirals on the different planets being like, you know, governors in a sense, like liaisons? You know, and all the ships that blew up 120 years ago. If that killed like 65% of the admiralty, well, even 125 years. I mean, are you gonna? Why would you be? You know, are the captains more important to keep out in the field that you've got left, or promote them to admiral and no longer being out there in the field? So I can see there being only like 20 admirals in all of Starfleet at this point, because it's just they haven't got the sort of organization anymore. You know.
that's the funny thing. Vance is an admiral, the CNC, and he's under 50. Like he's not one of the old guys.
Well, he looks.
Well, the actor is.
Sure, but I would guarantee he's in his like 80s in the show, 70s or 80s.
Okay, well,
because Picard was 70 and the actor was 45, 50 or 50, so at least 10 years, if not 20, for an actor.
Well, we need clarification on that, but yeah, be
Sorry,
interesting
I'm
to see.
just, you know me about the medicine thing in the future.
Yeah, how the ranking system works as far as that's interesting though about ships not really doing anything because they can't. So yeah, no experience, no way to advance people in rank.
And now they, I mean, even if you had a shipyard, which I'm sure they have at least one, why would you spend resources that you are really hard to get to build new ships that you can't do much with? And we haven't seen a dry dock in this location. And of all the places you build it here so that they wouldn't have to go anywhere. They could just be in defense of the station. But there's no construction facilities here, you know? Like, what could you see the purpose of admirals even being in this point of the timeline? Like, what would they be doing?
That's a good question. Usually, in the normal scheme of things, the admirals are the buffer between the politicians and the captains, you know, and then you got the president at the top of the pyramid. It just goes downhill because captains, commanders, department heads, shit like that. So the admirals are pretty much, they turn the policy of that the government makes into the actions that the military or Starfleet, in this case, takes to uphold those decisions. So yeah, they're basically the buffer between the politics, the political end of the government, and the military branch, or the, you don't want to call it military because everybody gets all up in arms that Starfleet's not the military, but the Starfleet arm of the of the Federation. So yeah, I don't know what admirals would be doing necessarily because we haven't seen any. We haven't seen a lot of people in Starfleet headquarters. It's not a big area that we see.
No, it really isn't.
See like the top 2 floors, and that's it.
And we know that there's also the Starfleet headquarters Federation building. So the government's also in the lower decks. So they're all sharing space. Oh boy, I put a lot of words in there.
The president's lower decks in this one.
It's Boimler! President Boimler! Alfred Boimler, great-great-grandson of the famous Boimler.
The Boimler effect was named after him.
Yes, and that president is not kind to forget. See, I can imagine a lot of admirals were on planets at the burn, and so they're going to stay doing their job. Like, well, now I can't be in contact with anybody, but I'm still going to do my job. I've still got, 150 officers on an outpost at Delta Vega. Well, I'm still an admiral. You're still an officer. We're gonna wait here. Oh no, now it's been 90 years. I'm probably dead. Great, I can think that way. But I'm, they're still carrying on the legacy, and now my, XO is admiral. He was younger, whatever. So there are more admirals out there doing stuff, and I would honestly think that you'd probably put an admiral in every member world just to be useful. Just as the direct liaison, so that there isn't. You need somebody who can make the choices for the Federation on those planets, if the communication line suddenly goes down. Not to say they can do much.
No, that would make sense. I mean, those are generally the roles of ambassadors, which ambassadors are separated from the military branch or arm, and ambassadors are more like a, for the civilians, it's hard to explain.
Well, but you are right there.
Yeah, there's like a definite distinction there, but I do like the fact that admiral should be sent to be the Starfleet arm on planets as far as representing them.
Because I'm sure you'd also have ambassadors. I'm not saying they act as ambassadors, but any Starfleet personnel on that planet would need a commanding officer, and if you aren't guaranteed communication with anybody, and besides, although I would have assumed personally until this last week that they would have used all member worlds to like grow fresh food and help generate things you need, but they were explicitly saying that at least here they use all replicator food, and in fact Vance said he's never had an apple, implying that really they don't hold any priority on that sort of thing for what you do at the natural planets that you've got. I mean, maybe all member worlds became more reclusive, so even though you've got an outpost and you've got 3,000 officers and an admiral just kind of doing their bit, they don't supply this unit because just the travel just takes too long, or it's just too annoying. If they've only got 44 ships and they're all out, always moving. But yeah, I can't see them having like less than 30 admirals. And
well,
if everyone's putting out fires, it's kind of like the pandemic. If everyone's putting out a fire, you're not thinking about promotion, are you? You're not thinking about next head of police. It's like, no, you're busy just doing your job.
Yeah, the only other admiral we've seen is Admiral Tall, who died in a shuttle accident.
Yes.
And we did see a meeting with the CNC, Vance, and the captains, and there's probably 8 captains there. Not very many, which is there's not many ships, hanging out either, really. So yeah,
there's 8 captains that were at Starfleet Command. You'd assume there'd be at least 4 to 5 times as many doing missions, because if it's a 3-week mission, those guys are out.
Yes.
And then, Rush the Zeppelin says there's obviously some kind of dry dock there to have dinner, the refit on Discovery, to have done the refit. Yes and no. That was replicatable matter based construction, and it wasn't a big or hard ship, and it wasn't like they were trying to reinvent the wheel. They just had to make new nacelles that look the same. So I can imagine that was a very, very simple operation, relatively speaking, to what they do. But you are right. You could say they could do a refit of something which involved mostly building a new ship. Although you could also argue they weren't building it from scratch necessarily. They may have just put the matter on the hull and it kind of changed everything as it went, etc. But they say you can build stuff, but I can also imagine that they like pulled resources from other stuff, especially to do that. And that was like, we don't normally do that. We had to pull all of our replicable matter supplies into one pool just to kind of get underway. Although I'm obviously thinking more 8-brain. They still need a dry dock facility to build stuff. Although I would hate to see just ships getting built with replicable matter. Just like, oh yes, we need a Type 47 shuttle. Beep, beep, beep. Will give us 9 minutes and they'll, bing, it's done. Thinking.
Don't touch it. It's hot. Let it cool down first.
I was visualizing the pizza from Back to the Future. Ding! Here it is.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Hydrated.
Yes.
Dr. Ronslin, $5. It was just Vance and Tal. That's why Tal apologized for abandoning him. I wouldn't say it was just them. I wouldn't get that from that line.
No, I wouldn't have said that. I mean, one of the few, but also an old friend. I wouldn't have said
I think that's where the sorry for abandoning you thing was, the old friend part.
Yeah.
And I love how Vance is like, just keep in mind that, Senate Tall and I were old friends, not you and I.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that Cisco and the old man vibe,
And
you know.
and it is kind of interesting, actually. I mean, obviously, it isn't in the sense that, yeah, Jadzia didn't do anything that Curzon did. But you would think with that limited number of Starfleet personnel, you may want to you may want to ask the Trill that has a knowledge of what, several generations of Federation officers to stay aboard your space station and be useful, rather than just be an engineering undergrad on a. Okay, yes, it's an important ship, but Senator wasn't an engineer, I don't think. Adira is, maybe. They were a security person, but also, whatever.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Jason 6690 $5.
Thank you.
There could be multiple Federation presidents and multiple Starfleet commands in different pockets of Federation capacity. Yeah, that's what we've been saying. Once you're cut off, you try to keep your organization together. So you're going to have contact with Admiral Vance and know what his Starfleet headquarters is doing. Of course, you're going to be like, okay, we need to restart the Federation from here because we have no contact anywhere else. I'm the highest in charge. I'm going to become president. It's just the way it happens. And, so yeah, that's what I mean. Once we start meeting up with these outliers of Federation pockets that are on the outskirts, it'll be interesting because they're not going to want to give up their power necessarily. There's going to be Federation to Federation conflict, and it's not going to be a hey, because it's very much like the perfect example is Equinox. Unfortunately, I'm the senior captain because I got the bigger ship. Well, really, are you though? Because I've been captain longer. That kind of shit's going to happen, and everybody thinks they were doing the right thing, so they don't want somebody coming in and stepping on their toes and saying, "Nope, this is how we did it all this time." So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
And that's definitely a debate to have in a second. But Me No Other says Doug Drexler said the Enterprise J would have shuttle replicators. Yes, he said that on our show. But neither of us agree with him because it's too far. It's silly, he also says the ship has no weapons, can travel in time into other universes and galaxies. Doug says whatever he wants to say. Take whatever he says for a pinch of salt, but they wouldn't do that. And Doug said the bridge is just a VR device that you sit down in your quarters and it becomes a bridge. And it's really,
yeah,
don't think so.
That was the Vulcan sauna.
Yeah, love Doug, but no, they don't replicate. I mean, at this point, they, in a sense, do. Although I don't think replicatable matter can replicate, really important things, just like normal replicators. So you just have to build certain stuff, which is good. You should have to,
Yeah.
You can replicate, 3D print the shell, but then you have to, put in the pipes, etc.
Well, you would think that the programmable matter would be integrated with nanites or something at this point, where yes, like you said, you put it on the hull. The nanites start doing their job and reconfiguring things using the metal that's there as a fuel source and then converting it to whatever they need to. And they're intelligent enough that they can refit the ship for you. And really, there's very little that you'd have to do. I like that idea, honestly, because that would make the most sense for something this far advanced for a refit.
It's tricky to get to Ultra Future because it kind of makes everything somewhat boring. Not in that it's not interesting, just like, oh, we need new shuttles. Zoop, we made it. It's like, oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, then why aren't they designing and building dozens of custom shuttles for every mission? Because, well, you just can. Takes all the tension away. Takes all the threat of anything away.
Well, there's got to be limitations to each thing. Like it's like advanced tech seems like magic. So you go back 200 years and show somebody our civilization, they'd be like, oh, so you can just make me a phone in your house? I want a phone like you have. You can make me one, right? You're from the future. You look at all the stuff in your house. You got a 3D printer. You got a computer. You can make a phone for me, can't you? No, I don't have the production facilities. They're in China.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thinking. Like there's got to be limitations. Otherwise, everything's OP and God powered. But if you're progressing 930 years and you're not jumping 930 years, there's a difference. You jump 930 years, it's like, hey, look at all this cool stuff. You can do whatever you want, right? You progress 930 years, you're like, you know all the limitations that your technology still has. So,
well, I mean, as I praised them last week, they went into the Vruban Nebula and their shields were down to 20% in a minute or two.
Yeah.
Still can't take on the universe. Big forces still kick their ass. You know, the Transwarp network, bookship, which could take on the Viridian by itself and get hit dozens of times and maintain, 15% shields for 45 minutes.
And 15,000 hits, yep.
Could not take even 1 minute at Transwarp without shields down 20% as well. That's it. I mean, that, you know, shit still hurts. There's still limitations. And you would assume that these ships are more and more complicated to build.
Yes.
So therefore, the components, you know, as our phones and chips get more complicated, like, you know, my S20 has a periscope camera, and it's like, well, it was cutting edge when it came out. And it's like you couldn't just make a periscope this small even 2 years ago that go into a camera and do what it could do. You just couldn't.
I mean, in all honesty, so that's an interesting parallel as well. Yeah. Let's say cars, right?
Yeah.
Most people with a wood shop these days could make an old carriage, a horse and carriage.
Yeah.
Not a horse. They can't make the horse.
They could try.
They could make the carriage because
and the wheels
even some amateur or intermediate woodworkers would be able to do that. But you can't make a car. You know, like and there's parallels like that. Whereas like 100 years ago, not necessarily everybody could have made a wagon because they hadn't seen one or whatever, right?
And same thing. Could a metal shop blacksmith worker guy also build a car? It's like, well, he could cut out the chassis, maybe not as smooth because he hasn't got the right tools, and probably not as thin because he hasn't got the right tools, and then he couldn't make a tire, he couldn't make the glass, you know. Yeah, it's just, it all breaks down.
Yeah, sure, you can look it up on your computer how to make everything, every component, but you need all the parts, you need the tools, but you could theoretically do it if you could, you know.
And this is why the fun limitation of this future isn't the fact that we haven't got technology to create copper really fast. It's that we can't go to a planet to get the raw materials to be able to use technology to get the resource. There's a finite this, and this, which unfortunately is like the point in the pipe that is now, you know, the pipe, it starts here, in the middle it's right here, oh dear, and now it slows everything else. It's unfortunate, and that's why dilithium is going to be really exciting, that season 4, it's going to open up, we hope. I mean, it may go shit, you know, may go poorly, but yeah.
And a lot, big deal out of the fact that Admiral Vance hasn't had a real apple either. He has lived his whole life post-burn. He has been in Starfleet for long enough to become an admiral and the CNC. You would think that he has the ability, if he really wanted to go to a planet to get a fucking apple. But he needs to stay where he's at because he's needed there. So he can't have the luxury to head off on a 3-month, you know, each way trip to a planet where he could, like, he literally could do that, but he literally won't because his job is, you know, at Starfleet headquarters. So it's just because, and even the scientists said it in this last episode, in your time when you had the luxury of travel, whatever, it was different. So yeah, we got to keep that in mind too, that sure, they're advanced, they're in the future, but they don't have they might have the technology and the resources to get places if they're given enough time, but they just don't have I guess they don't have the resources because they need to take care of their own shit, you know, literally, when you're talking about apples, goddamn.
Well,
anyway.
It's a use and creation sense of that, you know, if it takes this much food to feed my ship's crew, which takes this much power in the replicator to feed them, which takes this much deuterium to power, which takes this much getting of deuterium, which takes this much time. That's just the baseline of keeping us ticking over. Then you got to do all these sub things in a day to the activities, which have got all take responsibility and resources, etc. And then you've now got a mission as well. You know, this is why often people run out of time in the day because it takes only so many hours in a day. And so yeah, we can't go too much further out. And yeah, that scientist guy saying, like you said, you know, travel was easy. Not that it was quick, but it was easy. You know, you could easily jump on any freight. I mean, Scotty bought passage on the Janolan or whatever to get places. Yeah. Boy, if you try to do that now, that'd be real expensive. You know. I don't know if you even could. You know. Well, you would think like Book as a courier would like sell travel Like, anybody that wants to go on a trip, I'm heading this way. Like,
Yeah.
the only ship in the next 2 weeks that's going to do it. You would think, actually, wouldn't you? Like, couriering people would be real important in the future. Like, a really good trip. Like, taxi business exploded.
Absolutely.
Or Uber, space Uber.
Yeah. Craig S23, £5. Captain Foley's bridge captain episodes are cool. I think you mean bridge crew. And for real in 2020, no doubt he'll be commanding a ship virtually from his captain's quarters in 3020. Oh, you're saying like Vance could see, that's the other thing. Yeah. Could they virtually command a ship? Like, you gotta think of distance though. I know they can do like holograms at quite a distance now. That's an interesting point, actually. Would they be able to virtually command or operate a starship sectors away without actually physically being on the ship? That's interesting. I don't see why not either. Super. I like it. Donnie says, I love the second overall Trekyards episode. Was the first one Starship Mine? Is that what you're thinking? And Jonathan says, why is Admiral Vance the only admiral ever seen at Starfleet's headquarters? I don't know. There might, like we said, we've only seen the top 2 floors, really, which is the command center. And then the lower deck is like medical, and there's also the ready room and stuff. So that's all we've seen. There's still a lot more to that. But he is the CNC. He's the one in charge of the command center. It's just like a World War II one where you see the tables with the little figures that they're moving with sticks to show where the battalions are. That's where the general is. It's overseeing everything. So that's why we see him. I don't know why we haven't seen any other admirals, but I would assume there's some there.
And just to go back for a second on the idea of holograph or running the Starfleet by, I wouldn't be surprised if it does turn out at one point like most people are just holograms and they're like doing their own thing. That would be a fine reveal. Vance actually doing 3 things, actually 3 Vance at one time in the room. They're all different holos based on.
Would you call that an advancement?
Yes. But why does Captain Picard like to read books bound with paper?
Oh, yes. Instead of an iPad.
Instead of an iPad or a PADD. Because the real became important when you can make it instantly, when you could whatever it. Why did before his horrible masochistic fire, why did they make real wine and value it? Because it's real. And so I think yes, they could hologram control everything, but that removes all of life. Part of doing his job is getting tired and going to sleep because he's drained, but waking up and feeling energized and going forward and eating. Eating becomes that pleasure. Oh, there's a real chocolate cake we made for the guy's birthday, as we saw in Picard, a real cake. So I never quite understand why people go on about, well, it could just be this and this. I'm like, we see time and time again, the real, as you go more future, the real becomes more important and more valued because we can do everything. And that's why it becomes special that we don't. I'm going to grab a glass of water because I'm really thirsty.
Okay. Let's see. Now, Sergeant Roadkill throws in £2. What I don't want is for the Fed to look like HRE. What does HRE stand for, Sergeant Roadkill? Just put it in the regular chat so that I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, I mean, I prefer books as well, but at the same time, I really love my iPad for reading as well. It just depends on the situation, but the fallback for a book is very important. So, Holy Roman Empire, the Holy Roman Empire. Okay, yeah. So Sergeant Roadkill throws in £2. What I don't want is for the Federation to look like the Holy Roman Empire. What do you mean by that specifically?
It would be.
Yeah, let us know what you mean by that. Jasper Sorrows, £5.
Yeah, thank you.
Wasn't there an episode where Romulans controlled a ship from light years away via telepath? I'd expect that kind of tech would be pretty advanced. Yeah, it was an Enterprise. Unfortunately, the pilot was an Andorian,
A long
and that
time
was just
ago.
stupid reveal. It's like, ooh look, oh, we're on Romulus. It's like, oh no, they're not even on the ship.
I mean, it looked cool.
Yep.
Yes. No, I agree. It is quite advanced if they can do that. Well, extremely advanced if they can do that. And
Yeah.
someone said, I mean, and yes, it wasn't actually Andorian. It was still Andorian 95% DNA. You know,
Yes.
it was the other planet, but they're still Andorians, just not Andorians.
It's like Remans and Romulans.
Well,
Kind of.
no, it's like Vulcans and Romulans. It's like, well, they're almost identical, but not quite. Remans
Yeah,
are
I know,
bat
but
people.
I
Romulans
was
are not
trying
bat
to
people.
I was trying to draw the. Never mind.
Because the only difference in their makeup is one was white, one was blue.
Exactly.
I guess they couldn't see. Where's the child say? Oh yeah. Ikite the bat. While a lot of holographic people are real people, well, they're not real people. They're real entities. People is a thing of solid people. They might be real entities of personality, but they're not real people. That's the point of them not being a person. Like, you know?
Samuel's prejudiced against holograms is what he's saying. He doesn't think the Doctor deserves his people card.
No, he's a real life form. He's just not a real human person because he's not a human. He's not a person. He looks like a human person, but he isn't.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
I know what you mean. I'm just making fun of you.
I know. I know you are.
James McGill, $2. Was hoping to find out about Klingons and Romulans. Well, we found out about the Romulans. They're on Navarre.
True.
Some of them.
Yeah.
And they're still Romulan. They're still very Romulan in their approaches to things.
Mm-hmm.
And as for the Klingons, yes, I would like to have some word of the Klingons. Everybody's like, what about the Borg? I don't give a shit about the Borg personally, but I would like to know about the Klingons. And I think the reason they haven't revealed the Klingons is because they'd have to admit that, oh, well, our Klingons look stupid.
Brian's Klingons look stupid.
Yeah.
They ain't their Klingons.
Which they adopted it. It was forced on them.
Yep. Well,
So-
do you see how much money they put into those costumes? And it's sad because you can tell the money in Discovery Season 1 is way more than Discovery Season 3. You know, so I went back and had to watch a little bit of it, and it's like the detail in the costumes and the makeup and the sets way higher than this season. This season is way better because they burned that money on shit. You know, this season they did not burn money, and it feels appropriate. Yeah.
Kyle Wong, £10.
Oh, thank you.
Won't they invest in creating hologram commanders and crew, i.e. the ECH? No, I mean, there's too many problems with that, because as soon as you say that, it's the same thing with the detached nacelles. Everybody's like, that's stupid. What if they lose power? So it's the same thing. What if there's a dampening field? All of a sudden your crew's gone. You're the only human on the ship. Everybody else was just a hologram.
And obviously, do you remember Equinox, how they made the Doctor a butcher by doing one thing?
Yep.
Done. There you go. Oh my god, our entire holographic fleet got reprogrammed by Control. Now they serve us. Now they serve this evil AI that's coming along. Well, that was easy. You know. It's one of those things where, yes, you can imagine the ECH coming back. There may be a point of, let's try holographic people. But we are, 600 years in the future of that? 700 years? Clearly, that never happened. So clearly, it's not, they would have done it by now if that was going to be a thing, you know?
That's going to be the big reveal at the end of the next episode. Everybody's been a hologram.
Soylent Green is holograms, yeah. But you know what I mean?
Or all the people are made of shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're so full of shit. How'd you know?
That's why my beard stays perfectly salt and pepper the entire season. Don't age.
That's right.
But you know what I mean? Like, the fact they haven't done it shows that was never a thing they were going to do. Because you would think, Hollow commanders could be really useful. You know, why don't you how would Kirk deal with this situation? Let's see what Hollow Kirk would do. You know, maybe we need a diplomat like Picard. Let's bring back Hollow Picard. But I would assume there's some rules against, like there's time rules. I'm sure there's holo rules. Like maybe they're not allowed to make a sentient hologram because it's not fair just to be able to create life. If it happens an accident, fine. And the Doctor was an accident. But, Eli isn't sentient, clearly. He's a tool.
Hashtag bring back Moriarty.
Yeah.
Where's Moriarty right now? Maybe he's still alive.
He's Federation president. There you go.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be. And his wife's first lady, and then the same actor's like, we were in Star Trek in the 1980s. Hello. I've still got the same damn hat. But you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure there are rules. Like, it's not okay to create sentient life.
Yeah.
So the fact they haven't. Now, obviously, it's like giving credit to the Picard writers saying, well, there obviously was never a Romulan treaty because there isn't one in the show, even though it's stupid. So it's kind of hard to take the good and the bad. But if you make a good choice that makes sense, it's hard to dispute it.
Yeah. Sergeant Roadkill, £5. The Roman Empire, as in split into tiny, mostly independent territories, only lip service to the central power, rather than the integrated federal system of Federation of old. Yeah, and I could totally see that's what happened with the burn, because that the Federation was expansive. They said as much, 300 and some odd planets at its peak. They don't have access to all that right now, but those still consider themselves under the umbrella of the Federation. And if you have a Federation embassy on your planet, people in charge that were there at the time are going to take it on themselves to become the Federation for the immediate area. And it's going to be splintered little things.
Yeah, let me reply to the thing, and then that is that. Thanks for bringing us back to that. But someone says, so I don't know. Parents make sentient life all the time. No, they make babies that grow to become sentient life. If you make a hologram, you're gonna make a fully formed person with a role to do something. They could make they could make holographic babies and say, right, the baby is now. Doesn't make sense. So it's not. You can't equate that. It's a silly comment. It's not at all equatable. Like, you don't make a person with intent, as in you don't say, I'm gonna have my son and I'm gonna ensure that in 20 years they're gonna be in the army.
Well, parents try that all the time. My kid's gonna be a doctor. My kid's gonna be a lawyer. I'm gonna live vicariously through them.
But that's the hope. Whereas a hologram, exactly. It's now go do it, boom. And you're very rarely do children actually turn out the way you think they're going to, because they have all the life experience and free will, etc. etc. Do the super chats, and I really want to jump back onto that, because that's the groundbreaking thing that you just mentioned, the multi-federation thing.
Yes, Area 51, $5. Hollow Kirk would logic problem himself to death. Should I exist? No, you shouldn't. You're not real. But I am real. But you're not. Yeah.
What does a hologram need of the starship?
£5. Happy new lockdown, lads. Speaking of replicators, do you think the Starfleet ship with the forest could be used for growing food or just for oxygen? Definitely both. But that is a rainforest one specifically. So
yeah, and I can imagine Vance, the sort of guy that says, you know what, the kids in the fleet can have the real fruit. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I don't
maybe
think...
gets one. It's like a real banana on his birthday because he likes bananas.
Yeah. But I can, yeah. But I think he's the sort of guy that will absolutely put other people's, benefit. Because I can have full holographic bananas right now that taste great. I'll happily give my 9-year-old niece the real one. That's fine. I get to have 4, etc.
Yeah. Mark Glass,
Joe's
$5.
Joe's comment. Damn you, Joe.
Joe who?
Peanut hamper for president.
Oh,
that's good.
Peanut hamper can suck my nuts. I hate peanut hamper. Anyway, Mark Glass throws in $5 with no comment, but thank you very much, Mark.
Mark, we appreciate it.
Well, let's get back to Splintered.
Yeah, and that I hadn't even considered that exactly the way you said it, but a great example of that is Battlestar Galactica in 2004, where President Roslin is on this ship, and she is informed that the other cabinet has been just destroyed. But let's say for a second that a couple of them, classic film, the rubble comes down and they survive the rubble and they get on a ship and they escape, right? Let's say they didn't all get killed. Because of the chain of logic, she's been given command. She was the education secretary. well, what if some other guy comes in 2 seasons later and he was the,
Original.
or the engineering secretary and technically a higher rank, and he's like, well, I've also been president for the last, 6 years on my fleet. Well, I've got the Galactica. Yeah, well, I've got the Cerberus. There would be tension there as they grow to have their own level of power. And yeah, absolutely, I didn't even consider that. But yeah, you've got space stations and colonies that are going to have people, and especially these admirals. I mean, yeah, the Splinter set, that is going to be the story. You can't get away from that, and that could be incredibly interesting.
I missed 2 super chats.
Oh, shit.
Fleet Paw Swiftback. He was not important because he's a moderator.
Oh.
$2. I'm just kidding. I was like 150 paying for it. Fleet Paw's here. 153 likes with 219 people here. Let's get to 175. Hit that like button if you haven't, guys. And Jasper Soros, £5. Why does Voyager have an AI with more personality than one in Discovery? It doesn't really make sense to be like the lifeline of advancements. Because it was probably something happened with the Doctor's program and it went bad, and same reason that synths were outlawed in Picard. Something happened, and it was probably like, you can make holograms still, but you can't give them the protocols to make them sentient, because that went really bad for the poor Doctor.
Oh, it's just not fair to make life, because then, what if it chooses something else, etc. Because you can implant that life where they want to be a doctor. Well, they didn't choose to be a doctor. What if it chooses not to be a doctor in 5 years? Well, then I guess you could, you know what I mean? But you could reset it. And besides, the Doctor was EMH Mark 1. Early prototype, early code, and this was one of the first ships that had it, so obviously it's going to be less different, less controllable. And besides, Eli is a tool, like a hypospanner. They said he's a holo to play a role as lie detector. We gave it a face to make it easy to deal with. Not intended to be a personal. So that holo does not represent the holographic technology. We did already see investigators that were holograms that had more personality. So don't take that as a holograms are less advanced. No.
I'm just trying to shut off all the holograms that are watching right now.
Well, it worked. And an SC Scout guy said, Samuel, that actually did happen in BSG with a dumb at Admiral Kane. Yes, but that makes sense because that is a direct Admiral. Like, you can't argue that. Bigger ship, more experienced Admiral. There's no... Whereas 2 presidents...
Yeah.
There's a real argument there. Because what if you have more civilians in your ship and your fleet? So that... I know it happened, but it's not the same situation. I mean, that would have been really more political.
And that same thing happened in Voyager 2 with Equinox. Yeah. Where Janeway got control, essentially. Yeah.
Was Ransom meant to be an older captain Equinox? Because I never really got the sense.
Yes. Okay. I think because she talks about him, like, and I knew Ransom. So I think he's been a captain longer. Yeah.
I think a lot of that stuff was when he was a commander on his ship. But yeah, because he doesn't feel like an older actor. But I guess Mulga didn't feel like a young actress either. So that's a problem. Between sort of 35 and 50, you can look very similar. It's kind of like, I don't know. Yeah.
Me no other, $10. So thank you so much.
Helps a lot. We're getting there, guys.
When will you do an episode on the Mandalorian virtual filming technology? That is an early holodeck. Set up screens in a room in your house, and you have a holodeck. Yes, the volume. We've talked about it before with Mandalorian. We're not going to do an episode specifically on it, I don't think.
No. I mean, yeah, I say every review, I wonder what was and wasn't using that.
Yeah. It is essentially a holodeck, but just with background images. It's not really interactive.
What I love about it is it's just rear screen projection, just better. Like, it's the exact same tech that they made in the 60s and 50s and 40s, just better. That's great.
Better resolution.
Yeah.
Brighter.
But there is a slight... I mean, there is a caveat. It still does feel flat in certain ways. When they walked through the Stardust story in the final episode, it felt like a flat 3-dimensional space. Whereas a green screen, there is depth, because it's all part of a depth. So it's real, but also it's really being shot, but it's also still a flat space. So there are still limitations. That's why it's great for vistas... Or like, you're on a rock and here is a vista.
The thing I want to ask you, actually, this is about green screen. We're going off topic a little bit.
Sure.
So green screen, you feel somebody in front of green screen, and there's like reflections of green on their skin or whatever.
Yeah.
How do you get rid of that? Because that's always confused me. Because you see you see the raw footage and there's green screen, and there's like reflections of green like on their skin and stuff. But in the final cut, there's not.
Well, that's the hard bit.
Well,
that's the hard bit. Yeah. I mean, it's same with hair. How is if the hair is so spindly and there's only maybe 1 pixel between hair, how could it pick it up? That's where the interpolation, like the AI stuff inside the software, comes in handy, and it kind of understands stuff. What's nice about there's a few, it is just plugins and softwares that understand just that specific thing. The green screen software removes a single color, but yes, the gradient of color. But what green screen software does is it's not. Once you set it up in a way, you're not literally just removing that color. You're telling the software, this is now a black and white element, and the black is now transparent. And you can set the gradients of color so that anything inside this range is now safe, anything out of this range is now transparent. But because you've now set a range, if you've got green inside that range, the software knows, okay, there's now the outside and the inside. Now let's look at the inside of this matte and pull the green out of the image.
Oh.
I don't know if that made sense. I'm trying to explain
it does.
I just kind of do it. Sorry.
But I'm thinking back to like the old school days when they used blue screen and you got blue spill on your model.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you get, like, they didn't have computer programs for that shit back then. So
what do you mean? You mean like Star Wars and such?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they were literally done with masking. I mean, those weren't blue screen. They were literally, they pulled a mask out of the difference in color. And then often you could just, I believe that stuff you can like take the image, make it like black and white, or compose it in a way that highlights one color, and then you can do other stuff to it. But I mean, look. I mean, I was watching TMP. I don't know if I mentioned it. We watched TMP Director's Cut like the other day for the first time. I think I may have messaged you that, or not.
No.
Oh, well, we were doing that for the first time. Less different than I thought. I thought it was more different. And there's a scene where Kirk is, in the travel pod looking at the ship, and it's behind their shoulders, and there's blue spill everywhere, on the walls, on his face. Like, it's absolutely horrendous. And it's like the movie's for the most part good, but let me find a picture because it's really bad. That is a motion picture, extremely high budget, absolute breaking neck technology, but obviously something about the level of it was just unfixable because it is bad,
Yeah. Anyway, back to our topic. I'm just kidding. Fleet Pilot Swiftback, $2. Hashtag justice for Sahil. He better be in the next episode. He better be goddamn Federation president. We have the president here finally to make this armistice arrangement official. And he walks in. 40 years of sitting around doing nothing.
And speaking of, we are starting a new hashtag as well. It's not just justice for Sahil. It's hashtag clean up transwarp. Because of all the mess in transwarp, we think there should be a concerted effort to like help the environment by cleaning up transwarp. It's important.
Hashtag transwarp trash as well. I put a post up on Twitter earlier, so just go check out Trekyards and share that.
We need some conservation of our important transwarp lanes. So help us fix.
Yes, don't litter America's highways. Don't litter the transwarp lanes.
For just $5 a month, the price of a cup of coffee, you can help us clean out transwarp.
Funny, when I was making the post and thinking about trash on the highways, I thought of like the chain gangs, like they take the prisoners out there to clean up the garbage.
Yeah.
You see prison ships in the transwarp corridors, like tractoring garbage and pulling it out.
That would be Osyra's punishment. She'll have a yellow vest and she'll be tractoring stuff out of transwarp.
She'd have a purple vest, I think, because I don't know if yellow and green really go together so much.
She as a punishment. Yeah. I think what's the worst color to go with your skin complexion? We'll do that for your color.
How about this? She's green, so we'll just green screen her out. Just replace her skin with like something else. No, I'll shut up now. Okay, Mark Glass, $10. Well, thank you for commenting this time, Mark.
Yes.
It would mean so much to me if you guys watched my Star Trek 2025 teaser and invoked a conversation about what a realistic hard reset of TOS Star Trek might look like. Ooh.
Whoa. What a comment.
Well, email us at trekyards@hotmail.com with the link and such, and we will check it out, and maybe we will...
And we've still got another hour, so if it's a short video, maybe I'd look at that. I mean, well... But things you could probably argue, a hard-edged TOS was Discovery in a sense, and it wasn't particularly fun to watch. In terms of the art design, it was obviously more sci-fi than you necessarily conceive of TOS. TOS is more functional than sci-fi, if that makes sense. They're not trying to be flashy.
Well, I think A hard reset on TOS was the Kelvin films as well. Like,
Yeah, that was a modern version.
and yeah,
I mean, TOS is the future, even but it's a certain aesthetic. I mean, you can visually modernize things, and I've talked about doing the bridge for a while. I know you've got a version. I still want to do my version, etc. But if you pull it too far away, I mean, you can easily say Wrath of Khan Bridge is just a visual update of TOS, and it is. That was the whole point.
yeah.
And you can argue it's better, especially the Star Trek 6 bridge is arguably a better bridge than TOS.
You can also argue that the 2000 Maxima is just a hard reset of the 2016 Maxima.
Mm-hmm.
Same car name, just new look.
So I think you wouldn't want to do that sort of hard reset. I mean, Discovery tried and it failed, in the sense of canon and whatever. Just move forward, as Discovery did, and they've created some interesting stuff.
Yeah. And Mark Glass, yes, Trekyards at hotmail.com. And Eric McIntosh is like, Hotmail? Yes, it's a perfectly fine.
I don't get why people say
We've had
Hotmail.
it for 6 years now.
Why do people...
No, we've had it for 6 years now, and it works fine. So
what's everyone's problem with Hotmail? It's a good email service. It's guys, it's email. It's not a complicated service. You don't need anything fancy.
Yeah.
Just
anywho,
yes.
Mal Simons puts in £4.
Thank you.
Maybe Guinan's the president. No.
Well, there was a story today.
She's going to be in Picard season 2. Yeah.
Which I'm excited about in the general sense. But I mean, again, these writers aren't very good. And Picard let itself down. So they might end up saying the whole season's about Guinan, like season 1 was about Data. And it's about demystifying her. Because that's what we want. Doesn't that sound great, Stuart? That's what we want.
Well, the thing that would annoy me is she didn't age from like the 1800s to TNG time, and now within she must have some kind of weird Elorian disease.
Yeah,
because she's going to look a lot different. But anywho,
although Coclid says so educational, the Mandalorian are doing script models again instead of CGI, which is a surprise. No, wrong way of saying that. They're not doing ship models again instead of CGI. All of the Slave One shots are CGI. They look incredible. A lot of the Razor Crest stuff is still CGI. It looks incredible. The X-Wing stuff is CGI. It looks incredible. Yes, the Imperial Star Destroyer was a miniature, enhanced with CGI. Excellent. But the TIE Fighters are all CG. Lambda Shot was all CG. So don't say as instead of, because CG models cannot replace CG. You can't do these dogfights in the same way. You know? It's way more expensive, way harder, and way flatter.
Combination of both. Same with Orville. Orville has both miniatures and CG as well.
Only for season 1, and only for the first episode, really.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I don't think they're using the stock shots for season, because after their one shoot with a miniature in season 1, because of the heat of the lights, because they hadn't filmed miniatures for decades, but they actually melted the model enough so it didn't move properly. And then by season 2, the CGI model was already way more detailed than the physical model. So to go back to the physical monitor, it looked worse since they didn't even think about redoing it, because why would you? It would look worse. And then they all use stock shots, but you can tell the difference in the low detail stock shot miniature versus the high detail CGI. It's like, you can't put windows inside the miniature that you can zoom in on. I can do a very clever composite shot, but you'll get low and low detail. So CGI is better if done right. Again, look at Slave One and Lambda Shot and the Mandalorian. They look absolutely 10 out of 10. Full CG. It looks like CG, but also looks like real CG. You know? Obviously, miniatures help Star Wars not age in terms of the original movies, but they also weren't going for the most ambitious shots, at least until the third film. Then they were going for ambitious shots, but they just threw money at it. And that was at the top of their game. And just like the Apollo 13, once you lose a certain style of tech, like, you probably would take a lot of time to do that level of intricate model shot again, because you'd be so like, let's do it CG. But yeah, not replace, just they picked a few clever things.
Yes. Aeon puts in $10.
Ooh, thank you.
Instead of trying to equip all starships with spore drives, and since Osyraa ships attached to Discovery and Spore jumped with it, they could set up spore drive stations throughout the galaxy. I mean,
wow, yeah,
sure. A little portal with a little station with a spore drive. Got a little pilot there, like Stamets. The ship comes up, docks to it. He fucking takes them where they need to go, and then comes back just by himself. And retrieves them at a certain time. That's interesting.
It is. That's actually very interesting. I mean, they've opened a door into that as a potential. But obviously we've already now been assessed that we can't recreate the technology, and you would think the scientists would really like go for it.
One of the Facebook guys, or one of the Trekyards followers, messaged me about that today, actually, which is interesting. I want to read it, actually. It's really important. Watching your first reaction video for the latest Discovery episode, and I wonder the reason they can't replicate Discovery's spore drive is because they don't have access to shipyards and proper research facilities. Earth and who knows how many other core members left. Also, Discovery is so old that they would need to convert the technology to work with their ships. It would be like trying to install the first modem into a quantum computer, and may have refit Discovery. They may have refit Discovery, but that may not be the same as building a ship from scratch. I think that is why they meant what they meant when they said the tech was currently unreplaceable. They don't have the facilities and personnel to get it done. I kind of like that it's older tech, like 1,000-year-old tech, and it's like it's the same thing I can bitch about with the computer. Like, here's my old game that's 2 discs and it's 256 colors. Why can't my fucking super advanced computer with a bazillion colors play the fucking thing?
Yeah,
it should be easy, but it's not. So.
I mean, even there's a game called Populous, which is really fun. The only way I could play that would be to buy a Windows 98 machine.
Yeah.
Like that's it, or maybe 2000.
It's just dumb to me.
Because some things are that, And I like that, It's from the perspective of the future people. It's like they managed to go intergalactic with Steam.
Yeah.
How I get how they did it, I guess. But we don't even run on these basics. It's just like how the warp scale changed from, 5 became probably 3, and then TOS and TNG. Like, if you gave... I mean, Trip saw Warp 7, he was like, these coils, holy shit. Because they revolutionized how they did it. It wasn't just getting better. It was a new way of doing it, which improved it. Can you imagine what, Trip would think about Voyager's warp nacelles? They'd be like, sorry, you're telling me you get this speed out of these nacelles... and they move?
Yeah.
Like, it's just completely mind-boggling because it's just not how,
I just want to thank Derek Rankin for sending that and acknowledge that, because that was really, when I read that, I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. God damn. So.
Yeah. But speaking of, if you see on the live stream, I put a picture. I also saw it as I was scrolling to find the thing I was looking for.
Oh, yeah, I noticed that. I've noticed that for years.
Yeah, so even in TMP, which has, there's even lens flares that,
And that should be easy to fix. Just fill that in black.
Well, but the reason that's happening is because there's too much blue spill from the blue screen on the miniature, and so the they did the best they could to get a correct mask, and it led to the thing, luckily far enough away, but that is in the Blu-ray today on the which was rescanned, etc. Like, that exists. And that is a flawed version, because that is the absolute best they could do at the time. Blue spill, it really can screw up, and that's definitely ruined a lot of green screen for fan films, especially because they just don't like green screen enough,
Interesting. Area 51, $5. Sahil for president, 31.89. I've waited my whole life for this day, literally. Yes, poor Sahil. James McGill, $5. How funny it would be if, after reading the Orion's Armistice deal, the Admiral looks to and goes, looks to the camera and goes, "It's a fake."
Yeah.
It's pretty good. And Mark Lawrence is here. Mark Lawrence, $5. Thank you very much, Mark.
Love it.
I've had my Hotmail since the 90s. Yes. Also, I just took a look at Mark's glasses video. Hints of a few different classes. Good-looking ship. I'll have to take a look at that. Make sure, email us at trekyards@hotmail.com with the link, and we'll check it out afterwards.
Another shot from the Blu-ray. It was fixed in the director's cut in terms of the blue spill. Although this isn't the exact shot I was talking about, but I it's quite a long sequence. I'm only looking for a couple of frames. So the shot looks great. Although it's a little bit like flat, but I love the use of scale here. And Kirk's actually okay, but as soon as you cut out just Scotty, Mr. James Doohan, you can instantly see, and I'm sorry for the slight delay for you, you can instantly see that there's the right of his face, etc., is blue, and you can literally see under his arm there's a blue bit of the blue screen they haven't even keyed.
Yeah.
Because it was too difficult. And it's like, yep, because I'm on a blue screen and it just couldn't get that, And that made the movie.
Interesting.
Not everything can be perfect. I know with.
See now I want to do a live talking about all the mistakes in Star Trek because there's lots.
Well, we have talked about doing top 10 goofs and actually going through them because there's a lot of fun ones.
Should do it per movie. That should be like a monthly live that we do.
Yeah, it's like with the like again watching TMP, the fact that the two guys at the end, Bones and Spock, change jacket colours, and it's like what? How did you? What?
Yeah.
How did that happen, guys?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Danny Shields though, €10.
Ooh,
Says thank you.
Thank you.
Could the season end on a cliffhanger that ties into Calypso, where Disco was sent back into the nebula for 100,000 years, but we don't see it come back? Calypso slots in between season 3 and season 4 then. Absolutely, because they need to reintegrate the sphere data with the... We're going to talk about this tomorrow during our prediction video probably. Reintegrate the sphere data from the dots into the ship again, but then it's the old ship. It's not the refitted ship. So how do you explain that? Yeah. Calypso, I want it to fit in somehow.
I mean, it'll be a season 4 thing. They've set groundwork for their because this is the reboot of the show. They had to spend a season creating the groundwork. Next season they can expand. They've got a really strong baseline. They don't have to have a 4-episode mystery, and then as until you up to Starfleet. I can see Calypso being part of the season 4, and Discovery being a clone or whatever. It's not going to be straightforward. It's definitely not going to be. No, I think. Well, getting it tomorrow, but there'll be a cliffhanger of sorts, but it's not going to be what you think.
Yeah. And Eugene, 1,000 rubles. Thank you so much, Eugene. Good to see you. Says nope. Don't know what you're talking about with that, but. And P.S. Episode 12 was unexpectedly awesome. I missed your review because I was on a night train.
Oh.
Wow. That sucks. Go watch it. It's still watchable, even though they're not live. And
obviously, we have got the short review if you want to hear our thoughts.
Yes.
Nice and edited. So take out all of the stuff in between. They're nice and neat. Yeah, good to see you. Hope you're going well. So yeah, should there be a Federation in 3189, a new one? Like I said, I'm fine with the Emerald Chain becoming a sort of, kind of like the Ferengi are in a sense, the more trade arm of it, But it just recognise them as a legitimate power, and the fact that they can stop slavery, although obviously a lot of the douchebags start in the chain, and therefore, do you really think the guy from episode 2 is just going to suddenly become a nice guy because his leadership says be nice? Bad people move towards bad circles and they continue the bad stuff. Do you really think people in the mob, the generic mob, if they were suddenly given real jobs, at a certain point they may want to reoffend or do something mean, because that's there's a reason some people go a certain direction. Whereas if you put
it's easier.
Sure, yeah. And do you think people in a really nice job? Do you how many nurses would do a mob thing versus how many mobs would do a whatever? I'm saying all are bad, whatever. But there's a reason people go into certain professions for certain reasons, because there's certain personality types, etc., etc. And so, obviously, they have to fight the internal problems in the chain to try and solve it. But that's obviously not her fault. Once you create a governmental thing, she can't control every person in it, and at least they're trying. Because you can imagine the chain is helping. I would like to have heard they're helping more people. It would be nice if the scientist guide had said, I've stood on the Truck 7 and we helped the, Trinium miners and of Borath 6, and I would love to hear that they did more, because they still feel like a thug species.
But, because all we hear is the pesticide on Quajon. Yes, exactly. I was there for that. I was a junior scientist when they perfected that. Yeah, but she did a lot of bad things to get that to have one small little result, right? It was we didn't get any sense of good that the Emerald Chain has done, although supplying outposts and colonies with what they need, albeit at a cost, but still giving them what they need via courier is a good thing. But Danny Shields though, €5. Thank you so much. They've seeded the idea of ships with hollow hulls. No reason that couldn't be implemented with Disco as a reason for Calypso appearance. Hey, I'm totally down with that. Yes, that's great. Because some ships were holographic hulls.
I mean, yes, but that's like a massive retcon saying the ship you saw is a fully holographic ship. It's like, oh, okay.
Well, no, it's the ship. It's just the material. It's like a chameleon like material that can look like whatever it wants to.
But would it have the same corridor structure? Because it would have to, because it would still be walking through it. Otherwise, it's just a holodeck. In which case, it's just a holo ship. You know,
Discovery's corridors hadn't changed, so.
But I think he's implying it's not Discovery; it's a different ship. Like it's a fully hollow ship. Like it's a holographic.
Oh, I don't think that's. I didn't get that. I didn't. I didn't think that's what he was implying. Danny, let us know.
Because that would just be stupid and sad if they're retconning it by just saying, "Yeah, we'll have a hollow emitter for 1,000 years." Like, really?
Fake Discovery so that the Discovery sphere data can grow in the fake Discovery, and then we'll transplant it to the new Discovery. Yeah, no, I don't think that's the thing.
Well, like I said, in my opinion, they didn't have this plan because they didn't know they were going to go to the future in season 2, maybe eventually. And so they wrote a really cool one-off they thought they were going to go to, but then they were like, oh, we'll make it tie in somehow. But it wasn't intentional. But obviously once you've set that up, you can't ignore it exactly. But just the fact that Zora is clearly existing in the, she's fully sentient at this point, and yet needs 1,000 years to become sentient. Well,
that's kind of weird, yeah.
But obviously, same was Control. They said they needed the data to become an AI. They're already an AI, so it's like, well,
could be that because Zora had to split and put herself in dot 23s.
That possibility.
And then they need to reintegrate her into the ship again. She doesn't have the sentience, so they need to let her, like I say, marinate.
Yeah. But the thing is, the sphere data is twofold because I like that, as you said in a previous review, the dots, like loads of them get destroyed, and then there's like 4 dots left, and a lot of the personality is gone. But then the point of the sphere data is it's actually a database, which happens to have a sentience, but that's a side effect of the sentience of the whatever. So if you lose the dots, you lose the data. The sphere data is now just an AI with some memory. Like you can't rebuild a database from destroyed dots, etc. So that would be. But then again, Stuart, I mean, we've said a few times, it's the MacGuffin of the season. Every solution solved by the sphere data. So it's almost like you'd have to retcon it away. Like they've already used it enough to say, okay, it goes down to 12% of its database. We have no longer got the MacGuffin. Although then you have the problem of, was the sphere data copied and put on Starfleet Command? You'd think they'd moved the old database to have a copy. Except in Discovery, so they can't be copied or moved. Except earlier in the season when it was copied and was moved.
Yep.
So it both can and can't. So, but then the sentience will be on both places. So it's a season 2, man. It's a problem.
Danny Shields, €5. No, just a hollow shell over the physical hull to mask future tech in case it's spotted in the nebula in the past. I see what you're saying, like a camouflage or like a tarp of some sort. But I can still see enough Ferengi seeing it, and they're going, "Hey, look at all this piece of shit ship. Salvage rights. Go and drag it out."
Yeah, and the thing is, they're also saying they're also holographicing the entire interior because Craft's going to explore that entire ship. And then what? Are all the guns going to be hollowed into old guns? I mean, at that point, why would you?
That's a good point. That's a good point, actually.
And why would you? If the point of the ship is to stay hidden, wouldn't you want to change the holographic appearance of the ship throughout time so it blends in as being of the era? If the ship looked 700 years old in the future, it's more of it's going to stand out more. And so, if anything, Craft at that point would want it to look like a new ship. So it's just like, oh, that's a 50-year-old ship. We already saw many people are trying to get relics from the past. It's valued. So, like, what I mean? These retcons really break down very, very quickly. But it's hard. It's hard to do. And I saw a interesting comment here. There was Discovery in the trailer of the next one with the old Discovery. So that was an interesting.
Is it? Because I've only watched that twice, and I haven't got. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the first shot. It's clearly a reuse. It's just like, hey, we're using a thing.
An episode ago, they used reaction shots of Saru and Reese that have the old deltas on. It's just what they're doing. It doesn't mean that it's the old ship.
Yeah, they just needed a They just needed a shot of the ship flying, and the ship is in a base the entire episode. So obviously, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's probably wise for them to consider this at least, because it seems like a good solution to kind of bring things together again. Because you still do have the Admiral chain, who are running out of dilithium, but from what I understand, have more dilithium than the Federation currently does, even though now they have a planet, access to a dilithium planet, which will be the next episode, what happens with that.
Well, I mean, obviously closing out soon, I think that's more of a case of they have more, but also burning through it because they're expanding, they're doing things. You know, it'd be very hard, whereas Federation rations it and uses it carefully, so a small supply goes a long way, they need it to last decades, which Emerald Chain is using it. And so can you imagine like stopping, their society is built on moving and being the ones that have it. If there's something cut the supply, you know what I mean? It would be like, oh no. So that's why it's such an immediate problem, because she would like to have the solution fixed, because she knows, in 6 months my society's going to start breaking down, and once I can't travel to 9 planets, those 50 planets they said are causing great profit for us. Well, we'll lose them all anyway, because we can't get to them. Real quickly, the Empire falls. Yeah.
And David L says, "Oh, is it the old Discovery? Can you guys put up a pic? That's a big deal if it is. It is the old Discovery. Trust us." They pan over the hull and you see it's the old registry number, the old style.
Well, it's just the nacelles. I mean, it just flies at cameras. The nacelles are easily spottable. It's like, oh, it's just a stock footage reuse. The whole, it's fine.
Oh, I thought we were talking about Calypso. Okay. Never mind.
Oh yes, Calypso. Yes. Yeah, that's. Remember, they hadn't written or designed the new Discovery yet, so it can't be the new Discovery. There was no model yet, so it was never going to be.
And as for the promo for next time, that'll be tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't have screenshots of it yet. I don't know if I'll be able to get them for tomorrow, but anyway.
Guys, we've done great. We are only, and we got there slowly, but we're only $38 away from a round number. I'd love to reach that. That'd be really, really positive. As we start to, go into 2021, where there's no new shows, our income's going to drop heavily. So if we can keep these averages up a little bit, each one does help for sure. Great on viewers have come today, though. I'm glad to see the topic was interesting. I really enjoyed the conversation, Stuart. I know we went all over the place, but I do like those sorts of things. It's very different to how we normally have to do.
These are the ones I like.
Yeah,
I enjoy the hangouts where we just kind of talk and kind of meander through different things. But even though this one is supposedly focused,
we didn't have to do a scene by scene. I mean, those are nice. We don't have to think as much because we just go to the next scene, which is nice. But it's just like, nice to have a overall thought, etc.
CBS just chucked on old Discovery. They won't notice. Yeah, chucked in the old Discovery. They won't notice, and we don't care. It sounds like a CBS quote. They won't notice, and we don't care. Damn, that's funny. Yeah.
Well, like you said, it's like using stock footage.
Yeah. So spam the chat now, guys. Do you think that? Say yes, you think that they should form a new federation. No, they shouldn't. Or it's not that simple.
Ooh.
Spam the chat right now with one of those 3 options, because I want to get a consensus of what you guys think. Yeah. Is it a trick? Is Osyraa just biding time until she can get the spore drive working for herself without Stamets? Now that Stamets is gone, so was it just a trick? Was she genuine? Was she sincere? So we got not that simple. No, not that simple. Not that simple. Not that simple. New. No. Wow. Yes and no. Heck yes. Yes, they should rebuild. Not that simple. No. Meh. Reform the Federation. Ooh, this is kind of all over the place. Not a definitive answer. Just bring back Kevin Sorbo. I don't think we've seen the real Federation yet, says Lisa Jericho. That's interesting. This could be one little insular cell that's actually the good guys. But,
Yeah, there's so many stories to tell. As long as they keep it sort of positive, you know.
Yeah. Danny Shields, €5, 5 likes for
Thank you.
200. Miles O'Brien for the season finale save.
Mm.
Oh yes, yeah. 4 more likes, guys. 226 people here. 196 likes. Let's get to 200 likes.
Yeah, come on.
And another, what, $20?
Yeah. Not
Yeah,
that
would be
much,
awesome.
guys.
If you, hmm, a lot of no's though for a lot of people. Hmm. I thought more people were on board with the whole forming a new federation.
Well, like
It sounds like a lot of people think Osyraa is not genuine, not being sincere. Hmm.
it's just so much. You know, the Federation stood for so long. It would be weird to, like, I especially since I know there is a mutual win-win here, but it's more of a time thing. The Federation, I'm sure, could crack the not Sphere, but the Spore Drive at some point, given it was their tech originally. Whereas, you know, Osyraa would run out of dilithium and then suddenly not become a threat anymore. You know, Starfleet can wait her out. That's why she gives way more in the negotiation, because at a certain point she has everything to lose. Starfleet doesn't. Their life may suck a bit, but it's not going to end today or even in 50 years. It may shrink even more, but it's not going to end. You know, so giving up the reputation and we'll join with the Emerald Train is like, well, yeah, but you have way more bargaining power. You know, you have the tech they need, etc. You know.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. I think Osyraa is like Gul Dukat. She seems well in her own mind, but really is a tyrant and a bit warped mentally.
I mean, definitely a tyrant in some respect, but as you said yesterday, she's an Orion and she's living in a culture of some negativity, and she's obviously not old enough to be pre-burned, so she's had to, like, how do you think she became a minister? Probably not through good political meanderings, probably through power, cleverness, Aurelio the
Sleeping with people.
scientist. You know, yeah. Now, wouldn't it have been interesting? I always thought they were going to go there. What if Aurelio is actually her husband, and they have kids together? Because he did marry an Orion. They have an
Yep.
old friend connection.
Yep.
Like, could that not have been where that was going?
I didn't even think about that till you just mentioned it. That's interesting. But that she's got nieces and nephews at least. Well, she has one less now.
Yeah.
But so we don't know about kids. That'd be a good reveal for the next episode that she has kids. And that those two are married. Wow.
Like, I don't want that to be the case. Because that's too small a universe. I like that of old friends. But it would be fun to have her be a mum, because that would deepen the character. You know, she's doing this for her children. She doesn't need that, obviously. But that, just like it deepened Aurelio by saying, yeah, he thought he was going to die, he thought his genetic illness would stop him from living a life. No, he managed so much. And kids are a big part of that, because kids are great. Sorry, Stuart.
Are they though?
Oh, they're great once they leave home and can give you Christmas presents that are worth something.
Yeah.
Speaking of, guys, we're almost at our Christmas what we got drunk hangout. Yeah, weird end of year for us because we have 3 shows to talk about. But we will do that. We'll have a drunk what we got for Christmas.
The Trekyards.
And classic drunk.
Which is a talk about whatever you guys want to talk about, kind of meandering, just hang out, sit down, talk. Don't know when.
Drink.
Don't know when. Probably this upcoming weekend, I would guess. But we haven't talked about it early, so we'll let you guys know.
No.
Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're notified. Click the notification bell icon so you get notified.
Because you know I have to edit a lot of videos when a discovery happens, so it's not going to be this weekend when I've got to edit for a lot of the weekend. But just saying, do you want videos or drunk? Because you can't do both.
Hashtag I want both.
Yeah, that's what he says to Sylvia all the time. $20 more, guys. 4-5, say hi, or just, you know what, final super chat slot. We will end. We will start the end Yeah, no, I had fun today, Stuart. And are you in a more awake / happy mood than you were when you started?
Yes.
Good stuff.
Fleet Power Swiftback is the last super chat slot right now with $2. Made it to 200. Held to the yes. We're at 212 likes, which is awesome. So, yeah. So who wants to sniping at that last super chat slot? Dollars all it takes. Just shouldn't be one of the mods. So, but whatever. Gosh, they're asking for both. That's quite the name. Yeah, Osyraa is too nice of a character. 3 Orions left the chat. Got another 10 minutes. Keep going. Well, we don't want to drag on with if we don't have to. Anywho, Mark Boardman snipes with $5 super chat. What a question mark. Snipe? Hey, Matt, how's it going? Who will have the last super chat? A moment in Trekyards history. This is important. We document it each time. There's a chart somewhere that has everybody's, I don't know. Matt Boardman snipes it. Yes, Discovery ship concept that released today is interesting. I haven't seen that.
I think it just means the Twitter stuff.
Oh, well, I've seen that, but that's not Discovery ship. All right. Ooh, Captain Chili Bean F $5. Got here real late. Snipe? Everybody's asking snipe. Like, they're not sure. They're not expert snipers. They're firing shots in the dark. Snipe? Did I hit him?
I mean, we're almost fully sniped, but there's one more sniper waiting. I can see the twinkle of the scope.
It's
that $5
like Call of Duty when you got a sniper, you got the little glint that you can see.
And that last $5, its bullet will pass through one of our brains, and the splatter will just cover the trees, and it'll be beautiful. And you'll then come down from the mountain, take a picture, and then you'll present it as the apple tree, because it made pears red with blood, and now it's an apple tree.
Yes, and Dave L says, "Who is Aurelio?" Aurelio is the scientist, the guy in the wheelchair.
Which I like that I can remember the name of. That means he did a good job.
Yeah. Matt Boardman, $2 snipe, and with an exclamation point.
But now we're $1.55 away. It's so close. Oh, so close. We don't really ever get like 0.55 cents. Goodness.
That's okay. I'll go find that on the street right now.
Or the sofa, the sofa.
Ooh, yeah. Oh, Mal Simmons, $2. What does God need with a snipe? Oh, that's good.
Love it.
There you go.
There we go.
Thank you, guys.
Excellent. Well done. We'll see you tomorrow.
Tune in tomorrow for our prediction for the last episode.
Oy.
And that should be a fun discussion. So keep an eye on the announcements as to when and where. Well, it's going to be here and probably at 5 p.m. at the time.
You had to roll back on that quickly, didn't you?
Yeah. I thought maybe we should start at 4.
Oh.
I thought maybe we should start at 4, but this isn't a review. And I don't want to talk for 3 hours necessarily about predictions, but...
Unless we try and get everything wrong. Maybe the first hour is trying to say everything that's just completely be wrong. And then the second hour we're real. And the third hour we try and be wrong again.
Well, we got Matt Boardman with a $5
oh my God.
Snipe. Gary Kaiser, $5. No comment, but thank you, Gary. Jason6690, it's $5 snipe. Why the hell not? You almost got it, Jason. And Eugene snipes in with 100 rubles. Puny God. Whoa. Wow.
And just for clarity, what just happened there is whoever got shot in the brain, while being shot in the brain, 5 more bullets quickly hit the body as they're all trying to be that final bullet. Yep. And each one fires a brilliant squib. And because they're sniper rounds, there's all that dust goes poof behind him, and he slowly starts to fall as he waits for one final bullet.
Yeah.
I don't
Gary
know how
Kaiser
that's gonna happen.
Says I said it right the first time. So thank you. Sorry.
He's
Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
He's about to hit the wall. The wall? About to hit the floor. And we'll see if there's no more bullets flying in the air. Is there no more bullets
No,
flying in the air?
there's not.
Going
Dave
once.
Aldo, where's
Going
Olivia?
twice.
Olivia has to work early tomorrow, so she is not here. Jason6690 called Eugene a bastard. Ooh. We should project TNG episodes for a laugh. We do that. Whenever we start a new season, we go through the list of titles.
Oh, God.
And we take shots at what we remember of the episode. And it's hilarious because sometimes we're spot on. Other times it's just vague as hell. And we have a competition. Who does it better? Me or him? And we don't listen to each other's.
Well, it's always you because you watch them. I've only watched everything once, maybe twice.
Oh, but you've got some ahead of me for sure.
Oh no! If I know them, I know them. I know them way more than you normally. But you know them. You know the broader range.
I know.
You watch them.
I know the vague sense of what the fuck's going on. I don't know the specifics.
I mean, you've also had like 20 more years to watch them than I have.
Well, I didn't know it was a competition. Otherwise, I'd be watching them a lot more over those 20 years.
Oh god, you could re-screw me over in terms of drinking. You've just watched season 5 ahead of time.
Dan23 snipes in with 2 pounds.
Yeah, there was one more bullet, and it hit the body.
And now we're boom on the floor.
Thanks,
guys.
The floor. See you tomorrow, guys.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.